Right now, as you are watching this, your computer is talking. Not to you, not for you. It is talking to a server farm somewhere you have never been, operated by people you have never met, sending data about things you never agreed to share. It is happening in the background, quietly, constantly. And if you are running Windows 11 in 2026, that conversation has grown louder than most people realize. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not paranoia. This is the architecture of the modern operating system. And today, we are going to tear it apart. Let me paint you a picture. It is 2019. You buy a laptop, you plug it in, you install Windows, you type in a local username, you are done. The machine is yours, it sits there, it works. Nobody else needs to know about it. Fast forward to 2026, you try to install Windows 11 Enterprise, and before you even see your desktop, before you touch a single file, Microsoft wants to know who you are. They want an account, a Microsoft account, an Entra ID, which is what they used to call Azure Active Directory before they rebranded it with a name that sounds like a luxury apartment complex. They want your identity verified, stored, linked, and synchronized. And if you say no, the setup screen fights you. It grays out the local account option. It pushes you toward the cloud like a current you cannot swim against. That shift, that single moment where a login screen became a surveillance checkpoint, is where the story really begins. Here is what most people do not understand about Windows in 2026. It is not really an operating system anymore, not in the way we used to think about operating systems. It is a platform, a service, a living, breathing subscriber ecosystem that Microsoft has spent the last decade quietly building underneath everyone's feet. Think about what an operating system used to be. It was software. You bought it once. It sat on your machine. It did not need to call home. It did not need to know your name. It just ran programs. That was it. Now think about what Windows 11 actually does every single day on a default installation. It syncs your settings to Microsoft's servers. It ties your browser history through Edge to your account profile. It runs something called the Cloud Experience Host, a background process that exists specifically to keep your machine connected to Microsoft's cloud infrastructure. It runs Entra ID authentication checks. It feeds data into Microsoft's Telemetry pipeline, which is a polite corporate word for a system that watches what you do on your own computer and sends summaries back to Redmond. And in 2026, there's something new sitting on top of all of that, AI. Microsoft has threaded artificial intelligence throughout the operating system in ways that sound helpful until you realize what they require to function. Recall the feature that takes screenshots of everything you do so an AI can help you find it later. That requires your behavioral data to be processed and stored. Copilot integration pulls from your documents, your emails, your browsing patterns. The AI assistant that pops up to help you is being trained in real time on the way you use your machine. And all of this is the default. You opted in the moment you clicked accept. We have arrived at a world where the operating system is less like a tool and more like a landlord. You live in it. You depend on it, but it owns the building. And if the landlord decides the terms have changed, if an update rolls through at 2 a.m. and rewrites what you agreed to, there's not much you can do about it. You do not own Windows 11. You are licensed to use it. And that license comes with conditions that change whether you read them or not. Now here is where it gets uncomfortable. The telemetry alone, just the basic diagnostic data Microsoft collects by default, runs into the gigabytes over time. When researchers have put packet analyzers on fresh Windows 11 installations and just watch the traffic, what they find is startling. The machine is not sitting idle. It is reaching out constantly. OB broker, diagtrack, Windows Update Medic Service, connected user experiences, and telemetry. These are not exotic services. These are things running on your machine right now, on most machines, communicating outward in ways the average user has no idea about. The connected user experiences and telemetry service has a name that sounds almost friendly. But what it does is build a behavioral profile of your session activity, which apps you open, when you open them, how long you stay, what crashes, what errors occur, and transmit that to Microsoft's analytics infrastructure. On an enterprise machine, this data is supposed to help IT departments. But on a machine you are supposed to own, in a home or in a small business, it is a stream of information leaving without your meaningful knowledge. And then there is the deeper layer. Entra ID, Microsoft's cloud identity platform, is now baked into Windows 11 Enterprise so thoroughly that removing it is not a matter of unchecking a box. It is woven into the authentication fabric of the operating system. On a corporate machine that belongs to a company's Azure tenant, this makes sense. The machine should report to the organization. But on a private workstation, on a machine where one person is simply trying to do their work without a cloud intermediary sitting between them and their own files, it becomes something else entirely. It becomes a dependency you never asked for. So, what do you do about it? You rebuild, Not dramatically, not by throwing the machine out the window, but surgically, methodically. You go in with intention, and you remove the architecture of dependency piece by piece, the way a surgeon removes something that does not belong. The first thing you confront is the installation itself. Windows 11 Enterprise in 2026, during the out-of-box experience, the setup process, is designed to pull you into the cloud from the very first screen. It wants a Microsoft account. It wants Entra ID enrollment. It wants to know who you are before you even get to the desktop. There's a way around this. It requires specific keystrokes at a specific moment, a network bypass, a command line workaround invoked during setup, and it gives you something Microsoft has quietly made harder to find: a local account. No cloud identity, no sync, just a username and a password that lives only on that machine. That moment, that choice, is the first act of reclamation. Once the system is installed with a local account, you begin looking at what is running, and if you have never done this before, it is a genuinely strange experience. Open the Task Manager on a fresh default Windows 11 install and look at the background processes. There are dozens of them. Many have names that tell you nothing. Some are legitimate system functions. But buried in there, consuming memory, touching the network, running quietly while you do your work, are the cloud tethers, the cloud experience host. This is the process responsible for keeping your machine aware of Microsoft's cloud services, feeding information to the account sync system, powering features like Cortana suggestions and start menu cloud content. On a machine you are trying to isolate from cloud dependency, it has no reason to exist. You can kill it. You can disable it at the service level. You can use group policy, which is an enterprise administration tool available in Windows 11 Enterprise, to permanently prevent it from restarting. The moment it stops, something subtle shifts. The machine gets quieter, not audibly quieter, digitally quieter, one less thing reaching outward. Then you go after DiagTrack, the connected user experiences and telemetry service. This one requires a bit more intention. Simply disabling it through the settings menu is not always sufficient. Windows has a service called the Windows Update Medic service, specifically designed to resurrect things you have killed. It is a guardian for Microsoft's infrastructure. It detects when certain services have been disabled and brings them back. To permanently disable DiagTrack, you often need to change its permissions at the file system level, remove the system's own ability to run it, so that even the Medic service cannot restore it. That is not a bug, that is architecture. Microsoft built a system that fights back when you try to turn it off. Think about what that means for a moment. You own this machine. You paid for it. You installed the operating system. And somewhere in that operating system is a service whose entire purpose is to make sure other services you try to disable keep running anyway. The machine has preferences, and those preferences are not always yours. Next is the AI layer. In 2026, Windows 11 Enterprise ships with Copilot integration, with recall functionality, with AI-powered indexing running in the background. These are not small processes. They consume RAM, they write to disk, they communicate outward. Disabling them through the interface is possible, but not always complete. The deeper work happens in the registry, the database at the heart of Windows where thousands of behavioral switches live, and in group policy, where enterprise administrators can set rules that the operating system itself is required to follow. Turning off recall entirely, disabling the AI indexing service, removing Copilot from the shell. Each of these is a specific registry key, a specific policy setting, a specific file permission change. And each one, done correctly, makes the machine lighter, measurably lighter. You can see it in RAM usage. You can see it in network traffic. A machine that was constantly murmuring, it's constantly sending, receiving, checking in, goes quieter with every step. There is something almost meditative about this process. You are not breaking the machine. You are stripping away what was added to it, returning it to something closer to what a computer used to be, a tool that works for you, only you. The outbound communication channels come next. Even after you have disabled the major telemetry services, Windows maintains a list of Microsoft endpoints it tries to reach. Update servers, activation servers, telemetry fallback addresses. On a machine you intend to operate with minimal cloud dependency, these channels need to be severed, or at least controlled. This can be done through the Windows firewall. You create outbound rules. You block specific IP ranges associated with Microsoft's telemetry infrastructure. These are publicly documented, maintained by privacy researchers who have done the work of identifying exactly where your machine tries to send data. You add them to a block list, and then you watch the network traffic. With a packet capture tool running, something like Wireshark, which lets you see every conversation your machine is having with the outside world, you can actually watch the silence spread. Connections that were constant become absent. Packets that were flowing outward stop. The machine sits there, doing its work, and it keeps it to itself. There is a moment, usually around the 2-hour mark of this kind of rebuild, where you open the network monitor and the outbound connections have dropped from dozens to just a handful. Legitimate update traffic, local network activity, nothing else. And there is something unexpectedly emotional about that. This machine, which 24 hours ago was participating in a data ecosystem it had no real choice about, is now quiet. It belongs to you again. The final layer is permanence. Because Windows has a way of undoing things, major updates, the twice-yearly feature updates that Microsoft pushes, can restore services you have disabled, re-enable telemetry pipelines you have blocked, reset group policy settings that you carefully configured. The machine does not forget that you modified it, but the update process does not respect those modifications. Protecting against this requires setting up controlled update policies. In Windows 11 Enterprise, you can configure the machine to only accept updates on your schedule, to pause automatic restarts, to require manual approval for feature updates, to create a restore checkpoint before any major update runs, so you can examine what changed and roll back what was re-enabled. It is extra work, but it means your configuration survives. It means next month and the month after, the machine still belongs to you. Let me tell you what this machine feels like when you're done. Boot times are faster. Not because you overclocked anything or added hardware, simply because there are fewer things starting up. Fewer background services competing for disk access during that first 30 seconds after power on. RAM usage at idle is lower, sometimes by gigabytes, because the cloud sync processes and AI indexing services that were quietly consuming memory are gone. Applications open faster, not dramatically, but perceptibly. The disk is not sharing its attention with background writers. The CPU is not splitting cycles with behavioral analyzers running just below the surface. And the network is yours. When you open a browser, that is the only network activity happening. When you download a file, you're not competing with telemetry processes for bandwidth. The machine does exactly what you asked it to do, and nothing else. There is a silence to it that is hard to describe if you have only ever used a modern Windows installation at default settings. You do not realize how loud it was until it stops. Now, I want to be honest with you about something. This process is not for everyone. It takes time. It takes patience. Some features, Cloud Sync, Copilot suggestions, certain Office integrations, will stop working because they depend on the infrastructure you have removed. If your work genuinely requires those features, this approach will cost you convenience. That is a real trade-off, and you deserve to know it going in. But here's what I want you to sit with. The fact that reclaiming your own machine requires this level of effort, that it requires bypassing the setup process, editing the registry, manually blocking telemetry endpoints, fighting a service that was specifically built to resurrect what you disabled. That fact is worth reflecting on. When did the defaults become the enemy of ownership? When did buying a computer start meaning that something else got to live on it too? Watching, syncing, learning, reporting, by default, automatically, without you having to do anything at all to make it happen. We are living through a transition in computing that most people are not consciously aware of. The personal computer, the thing that was supposed to be personal, that was supposed to be yours, that was supposed to sit in your home or your office and do exactly what you told it, has been slowly, over the course of a decade, converted into an endpoint, a node in someone else's network, a device that reports upward as a matter of course. And the people doing this are not villains. They genuinely believe the features they are building are useful. The AI suggestions are useful, the cross-device sync is useful, the automatic backup is useful, the telemetry helps them fix bugs. None of this was malicious. But convenience and control are not the same thing. And when you trade control for convenience, you rarely get the control back without a fight. Here is what haunts me about all of this. There's a generation of people growing up right now who have never experienced a computer that was simply theirs. They have grown up with devices that require accounts, devices that sync automatically, devices that learn their behavior, devices that report that behavior outward. They have never known anything different, and so they have no reason to want anything different. When those people are adults, making decisions about computing infrastructure, about what devices governments run, what machines hospitals use, what systems small businesses depend on, the idea of a computer that does not report upward will feel strange to them, unnecessary, paranoid even. And that is the slow erosion that worries me most. Not the telemetry itself, not any individual data point, but the normalization of it. The gradual acceptance that, of course, your computer talks to someone else. Of course, your machine has a relationship with a corporation that you did not choose and cannot fully exit. Of course, that is just how computers work. It does not have to be. What you did today, or what you are about to do if this video set you on that path, is a small act of defiance against a very large architecture. You rebuilt one machine, you severed one set of tethers, you made one workstation quiet again. That is not nothing. The future of computing will be shaped by whether people decide it is worth the effort to own their tools, or whether they accept, gradually and without much protest, that their tools own them. The machine is quiet now. Keep it that way.